In 2020, the town of Milton updated its housing production plan. The housing production plan assesses the town's housing needs, prioritizes those needs, sets housing production goals, and recommends strategies to implement those goals. This presentation will highlight some of Milton's housing challenges, solutions proposed by the plan, and the progress the town has made on implementing the plan's recommendations. My name is Tim Serwinski. I'm the Director of Planning and Community Development for the town of Milton. I'll be joined by Danya Raphael, a Milton resident and member of the Select Board Housing Committee, and Allison Quinn, the Director of Planning and Community Development. I got to go back. Sorry. My name is Tim Serwinski. I'm the Director of Planning and Community Development for the town of Milton. I'll be joined by Danya Raphael, a Milton resident and member of the Select Board Housing Committee, and Allison Quinn, the Assistant Director of Planning and Community Development.
As a rule of thumb, oops, I gotta go back, sorry, I'm already messing up. A rule of thumb is that a household should spend no more than 30% of its income on housing costs. Households that pay more than 30% of their income for housing costs, whether it's rent or mortgage payment, are considered cost burdened. Households that pay more than 50% of their income in housing costs are severely cost burdened. Almost a third of all Milton households are cost burdened, and their options for finding housing in town within their means is limited. Less than 5% of homes in Milton are deed restricted and affordable to households earning up to 80% of the area median income. Area median income is a way of measuring how much income a household makes. By definition, half of all households in an area earn more than the median, and half of all households earn less. Households earning 80% of the area median income or less are considered to be low income. Much of the market rate housing in Milton is also out of reach to families already living in town. 40% of households cannot afford the median sales price for a single family home, and 28% of households cannot afford the median rent. The number of residents living alone, residents over the age of 65, and residents who don't have access to affordable housing are all on the rise. This is a problem because the existing housing stock in Milton doesn't match the town's needs. 75% of all homes in Milton are single family and fewer than 20% are rentals. Households looking for smaller units with fewer bedrooms or the flexibility of a lease have few options in Milton. The housing production plan identifies priority housing needs and articulates strategies to address these needs. It contains rigorous analysis of local demographics and housing data, and it strategizes, sorry, I gotta start all over on this one. The housing production plan identifies priority housing needs and articulates strategies to address these needs. It contains rigorous analysis of local demographics and housing data, and its strategies are designed to produce housing that matches residents to appropriately sized and priced homes. The housing production priorities identified in the plan include changes to land use regulations that will enable the creation of missing housing types, financial support for affordable housing, like Community Preservation Act funds, using publicly owned land for production of affordable housing, and other measures that involve both the public and private sectors. The dominant housing type in the town of Milton is a single family house because our zoning generally prevents the development of other housing types. As a result, those who can't afford the limited supply of available single-family houses are shut out of Milton. This includes young families, elderly people on fixed incomes, and disabled people. The town's inability to produce affordable housing at a meaningful scale leaves it susceptible to 40B developments.
Chapter 40B is a state law that sets an affordable housing goal for every city and town in the Commonwealth. 10% of a town's year-round housing stock should consist of deed-restricted affordable homes. The law states that if a town doesn't reach this threshold, developers of multifamily housing can bypass certain local regulations like zoning if their projects have a sufficient number of affordable homes. Towns like Milton are vulnerable to 40B projects because of a historic lack of planning and deliberate production of affordable housing, which is why it is so imperative to correct that course as soon as possible. Since these developments tend to happen in single-family neighborhoods or areas where there is little, if any, multifamily housing, they are seen as disruptive and high impact in the towns where they are proposed. This has been Milton's experience. Recent 40B projects have been large, auto-oriented, and sited in a way that disregards natural topography and drainage. A town reaches safe harbor from 40B when it achieves certain affordable housing goals, and means a town can reject any 40B proposal if it chooses. A town has safe harbor as long as 10% of its housing is affordable, but there are other temporary methods of achieving safe harbor. The Housing Production Plan sets annual affordable housing production goals. If Milton increases its total SHI eligible homes by 0.5% in a year, then it earns a year of safe harbor. Increasing that by a full percentage point gives the town 2 years of safe harbor. This temporary safe harbor through the Housing Production Plan offers the town crucial breathing room to continue to plan for and promote affordable housing production that works best for Milton, not for 40B developers.
The Housing Production Plan identifies strategies for the town of Milton to further its housing goals, broken down into 4 broad categories: zoning, capacity building. Productive strategies will be critical not only for building and maintaining the town's subsidized housing inventory, but for creating a housing stock that meets the needs of all of Milton's residents. The town is already making progress on several of these strategies. By rezoning areas that make sense for growth, like our transit accessible commercial districts, we can manage our own outcomes. Local zoning amendments allow for some increases to density while creating amenities. Increasing the types of housing available, providing incentives to create affordable housing while still preserving Milton's historic inventory and reimagining open spaces. The Milton Village overlay zoning passed by town meeting in July 2020 encourages mixed-use development adjacent to Milton Station and has already garnered interest from several property owners and developers. The accessory dwelling unit bylaw also offers an alternative housing option for families that would like to create a small, independent unit within a large home. An accessory dwelling unit amendment could allow seniors, young adults, disabled people, and others to live independently but still connected to their families. The ADU bylaw also offers the ability for a little extra income in the form of rent to help offset family expenses. The planning board is continuing to refine its draft of an accessory dwelling unit bylaw. The Housing Production Plan advises the town to update its condominium conversion bylaw, which would allow existing estate homes on large parcels to be carved into smaller condominiums. The planning board introduced a proposal for amending our condominium conversion bylaw and a suite of zoning proposals for May 2021 town meeting. Testimony at the public hearing for this proposal surfaced a number of issues that the planning board intends to study to ensure that an amended bylaw furthers the town's housing goals without unduly burdening neighborhoods. A 40R district is another tool for zoning that includes community input and planning for predictable growth. The benefit of this tool is that it qualifies the town for additional funding resources from the state. The town has engaged in a visioning process for East Milton Square. One step could be to devise a 40R district. The town is also analyzing its inventory of publicly owned land to determine which sites are most suitable for housing development. The Community Preservation Act allows towns to opt into a tax to raise funds for affordable housing, historic preservation, and open space. Milton passed the Community Preservation Act, or CPA, in November 2020, creating a crucial funding stream for affordable housing. The town must spend at least 10% of the funding it raises through CPA on affordable housing, but can spend up to 80% if it so chooses. Towns across the Commonwealth have used CPA funds to build new housing, preserve existing housing, and fund programs to support affordable housing efforts.
Implementation of the housing production plan depends on the efforts of boards, committees, and departments across town government, as well as town meeting and residents. It's a reflection of our priorities and values as a welcoming and tight-knit community. We encourage you to read the plan, reach out to the town with your input and ideas, and participate in the conversation about how Milton can continue to grow and meet the housing needs of all of its residents.